Hey YouTube, I'm going to do a review on something I should have done a long time ago. Um, I bought this a year ago, and I should have, I wanted to do a review on it right away, but I'm actually glad that I procrastinated this long because that has allowed me to put some longevity testing on it. And today I'm going to show y'all my little generator, the Harbor Freight 800-watt generator. It'll actually do a little more than 800, but the RPMs and stuff pull down and you don't quite get 60 cycles, but it will put out. And I'll talk about it some. The things that you need to know when you get these things and you run it for a day and the thing stops. The generator's not messed up. There's just things that you have to do, and if you do them, it'll last you. But anyway, we'll get on with that, and I'll talk about it. So as soon as my battery is up, off we'll go. Okay, well, this is what I was wanting to do the review of over a year ago, and it's probably good that I waited because I've had time to break this product in and give it a period of extended use. Bought this for a little under $100 on sale, and the first thing a lot of people complain about is, oh, they don't run a day, you know, they one I had quit working. First thing you have to do with these when you buy them is you have to take, sorry, I can't do that through the viewfinder, you have to take that spark plug out and replace it with a good NGK plug, or maybe a Champion, because the one they supply with it is complete junk. That's 90% of all failures on this product. That's what it is. It's the plug. It's not gapped correctly when you get it, and it's also inferior grade materials. It won't run more than 6 hours on that plug, and the next time you go to crank it up, it may not run at all. It'll foul out pretty fast. Operation is pretty much straightforward. You just open your fuel valve over here. Now there's some of these, they've had leaks on the tanks. This one I was lucky, and it has, apparently they've upgraded it since then, the fuel line on the older versions of these. And you turn this valve, and I've already turned it so the carburetor would prime. And it cranks within 3 or 4 pulls, generally. Also, the other thing a lot of people miss, and it's printed right on a tank, you got to mix the fuel 50-to-1. It is a 2-stroke. That has advantages and disadvantages. The main advantage is you don't have to monitor oil levels. It's all pre-mixed in the fuel. The disadvantage is if you get it wrong, well, you'll have a boulder by the time you're done using it. When you're done using it, and it'll decide when you're done using it. And a lot of people neglect that particular fact. The other downside, they say that this thing is designed to run mid to high grade fuel. I've actually put standard grade fuel in this and it runs just fine. The output is a little more erratic because you don't have the octane pushing the piston around like you do with a longer burning high octane fuel. So you have to limit your power consumption to keep the output steady. And the other thing that people don't do with these, which you have to do religiously, is you have to go through the break-in cycle. Don't load this thing up when you first buy it with a full load. You will burn your coil out. So 25 hours you got to run it at about 40% load and no greater until it's had time to settle in, because it will burn up. There's a lot of people who have destroyed these small generators doing that. But, you know, it's a good generator if you're willing to put up with the maintenance. You know, take care of it, but that's like anything. You can't be a slob on your maintenance with these kind of things. You gotta take care of them right. And with a 2-stroke, it's more important than with a 4-stroke. A 4-stroke, you could probably put, you know, dirty, filthy, crappy gas through it and it would run just fine. But on a 2-stroke, you know, you have to baby it. And that's just how it is. Provided proper care, it runs well. The other thing that you have to do if you want the performance on this, they put a, let's see if I can find it. Here it is. I'm working through the viewfinder, so it's a little tough. This exhaust, they put a little mesh, very poorly perforated mesh screen on this exhaust pipe. It's supposed to be a spark arrestor. But if your exhaust system is properly tuned and working, it's not an issue. The motor, all the fuel should burn in the cylinder. You shouldn't be having sparks blowing out the butt end of this thing. If you do, then something is obviously very wrong, and you need to take it to be repaired or replaced. That being said, knock on wood, the engine on this has performed well once I got some slight adjustments on it and the things that I had to do. Fuel to air mixture is a little lean. If you know a little bit about 2-cycle carbs, you'll get more power out of this unit if you adjust it a little rich so that it just 4 strokes when it's not running on load. And the other thing a lot of people worry over on these, they say, oh, it makes all kinds of staccato noise and it's very rough running. It's a 2-stroke. When it's sitting there running without a load, it is not in its power curve, and it's gonna run unsteady and jumpy. That's just gonna happen. There's no way to get around it. When you start loading that engine up, it'll smooth out. It's just like a boat motor or a chainsaw. It runs best when under load, and it runs choppy when it's not under load. So put about 400 watts on it. Put about 400 watts worth of load on it, it'll smooth right up. Now, I'm going to crank it, but I have to stop the camera because this is a handheld device and I have to have my hands free to do what I got to do. So give me 1 second and I'll show you how it runs. As soon as I find the button, which seems to have disappeared off my viewfinder. Oh, there it is. So here it is running. It's actually not super loud, has pretty good muffler. The camera may be exacerbating that a bit because the mic is facing forward rather than backward. But it runs pretty clean. It does put off a stink. You don't want to run it too close to your house when the wind is blowing the wrong way. It will make a little smoke when you first choke it up, you know, because you're burning super rich and you got oil in your fuel mix. But it takes a little bit, maybe about 30-40 seconds on the choke, then you take the choke off. It has a single outlet. That's another thing you may have to fix at some point. They don't bolt that outlet in super good. So what you have to do eventually, and it's not that hard, you take the face off, and it's just a single gang outlet, just a regular wall outlet they got in there. Not that hard to mess with. If you're not electrically inclined, I wouldn't recommend it. But there's always somebody on the street who has a little know-how, they can fix that for you. I replaced that plug with a standard high-grade plug because the one they supply is pretty cheap and it will wear out after a while. And it's pretty quiet. I'll walk away from it and I'll show you. You could put this behind your house. It sounds about like an air compressor. There's not much to it. So we'll move away from that. Let me get my glasses back on now that I'm out in the sun again. Yeah. And I'll show you what I'm talking about the noise level. We'll get about 60 feet from it. We're at about 34 to 36 feet. It's starting to quiet down. Once you get out across the yard, you can barely hear it. And it does do a pretty good job for what it is. It will pull 800 watts. It'll actually, it'll surge past the 900 that they say it will. I've actually put it on devices that pulled over 1,000 watts surge, and it's managed it. It protests a little, but it comes on back. It's pretty super simple to operate. You just flip the switch on, pull the choke, and yank on it till it runs, just like starting a weed eater. You're basically powering with a moped engine is what you got there. It's got a 900 watt coil. It's got a 900 watt coil on a 2 kW plant. So that's usually what you do when you build generators. Your engine is always overpowered 2 to 1. You know, you always use half the amount of output on your coil versus like if you got a 1,000 watt generator, you'll have a 2 horsepower motor usually on it. That's usually the way they do it, is 2 to 1. Super efficient on gas. At half load it'll run about 8 or 9 hours on a gallon of gas. Not too bad. The guy that I watch his videos, he has the red version of this, and supposedly the paint is inferior. The gasoline eats it up, but the blue paint seems to hold up well. Has its own mixing cup up underneath this lid. If you don't have a way to measure your fuel out, it'll give you roughly 50 to 1. I run it 40 to 1. And the reason I do that, I'd rather have a little more oil than not enough, because once you seize one of these up, that's the end of it. So like I said, be religious on your oil. I'll do another video. I'll put it under a load and I'll show you the amount of power this thing can actually output and how it runs. It does slow down a little bit once you get past half load, but it doesn't get below 50 cycles. So it can pretty much carry what it's rated for. As like I said, you got to break them in. You can't just run it full load the first rattle out of the box or you're going to burn it up. And that's about it. Okay, so there you have it, the Harbor Freight generator review. One thing to note, I didn't have any loads to really test that with out there. I used to use an old shop light to do it, but that shop light is put away. But I have run things in excess of the, the full load of that thing. It will do 800 watts. The caveat there is you have to have good fuel to do 800 watts. It's just like a motorcycle. In fact, being a two-stroke, it is very much like a motorcycle. It's a performance engine. You put the high grade in, the output is very stable in the high watts. If you put the low grade fuel in, it'll work stable up to about 600 watts, and it'll do the full 800 watts. But the output begins to become a little unstable. There's a lot of ripple in it because it doesn't have the fire burning all the way through the power stroke when you use low octane fuel. It's just like a performance bike engine. In fact, the carburetor, everything on it is kind of made that way. So use the same maintenance steps you would use for a motorcycle when taking care of it. And if you want it to last, run it out of gas when you put it up. Turn that fuel valve off, let that carburetor dry out, because I'll tell you right now, you don't want to gum up a two-stroke carburetor. It never works right after that. Other than that, great machine. I've run a lot of things. I've even had it plugged into my camper, and it's done a good job. I think at the price, you're not going to find that kind of a package and that kind of a price. And all you have to do is give it a little more maintenance. Keep your maintenance up on it and treat it well. You can't treat it like a slob. It's got to be taken care of. So, good generator. I paid $69 on sale with coupon for that generator, and I got the extended warranty, and it was worth it. It's run great. So that's it. Take care, YouTube.